welcome to the first ever episode of Discourse in Magic. My name is Jonah.
My name is Tyler.
And we are here to welcome you and tell you about what this podcast is. So, for a little while, we had an idea to have a podcast where we got to interview magicians and discuss magic. And the premise was that we would start asking questions and, trying to get answers and trying to get to the bottom of things while also trying to even get more questions and get more exploration in the theory of magic, in the art of magic, in the performance, in all of those aspects. But immediately we found out that it needed to be more than that. We are already re-recording this first episode for you guys because the podcast has evolved already so much. It's been now, we've recorded 8 episodes so far, and we know that we need a community. So we now have a website, and we have a blog, and we have an incredible newsletter and email list that is going to be awesome for you guys to be a part of. So I'm going to pass it off to Tyler to tell you a little bit about who he is and who he is in Magic, and then how he arrived, here at Discourse in Magic.
So basically, who I am in Magic is a hobbyist, and I always have been. But how I ended up here was actually just through community itself, right? I mean, that was one of the biggest parts of Magic, and what drew me towards it the most was going to the Magic store and hanging out with all these super cool magicians, and meeting Jonah at Magic Camp. We're never going to stop plugging it because it's the most magical place in the world. Yeah. So, yeah, how I got into it. Let's go back to the very beginning. When I was a kid, I was always sort of awkward and shy, and I feel like a lot of magicians are sort of awkward and shy as children, and I always loved problem solving, and I loved math, and I loved all this sort of cool challenges and intellectual puzzles and things like that. So Magic was very stimulating because it was the sort of like, oh my god, that is so impossible. Like, how could I be seeing what I'm seeing? And I think my earliest memory of a magic trick is either my dad cutting a rope and putting it back together because he had a magic book that he bought so he could show me magic tricks, or it was probably when I was about 5 or 6, my grandfather took a sewing needle, don't try this at home, and he put it in the fold of his elbow on the inside of his arm, and he closed his arm up, and then he opened up his arm, and the needle was gone, and he opened his mouth, and it was in his mouth.
That's awesome.
I don't actually know if that happened. I was a child, so could have been anything, and all I remember is my dad being like, you better never, ever do that, and now I swallow needles and pull them out tied to string and all sorts of crazy stuff. But, yeah, I first got my first set of magic tricks when I was 12 years old. That was after I saw The Prestige and The Illusionist in the same year, and it was like, I need magic tricks for my birthday. And since then, it was just nonstop. Every penny I got at any job was going straight to the magic store. I couldn't have a conversation with me because all I wanted to do was show you magic and get critiqued and stuff like that. And that is sort of why I decided to do this with Jonah, was that it would be amazing for us to talk about things that aren't just how to do the tricks, but critiquing magic and looking at magic in a different light, and a few other reasons, but we'll get back to that, and I'll let Jonah take off and tell you how he got into this.
So my intro story is that I found magic through my uncle. My uncle did magic for all of the nieces and nephews. There were a lot of us. And he did, you guys know what it is, but he did D-lights. So he was pulling, bright red lights out of thin air, throwing them, putting them in his mouth, pulling them out of his ear. And it was incredible. And I just got completely hooked. So from then on, I was stuck on magic. And one of the first things I got an opportunity to do a couple years after that, I must have been 6 or 7 at the time, but I saw David Copperfield live, and then I got his VHS tapes, and I would mirror what David Copperfield would do in like his Grandfather Aces routine with my cards at home, except I wasn't doing any magic. The aces weren't disappearing or reappearing in any other piles. I was just going through the motions because I thought it would happen, and I don't know, I liked magic that much. And yeah, I actually do magic left-handed because I spent my early days of magic mirroring a TV of David Copperfield doing magic right-handed. So yeah,
And
so
you are right-handed.
I am right-handed in every other
sense of the
aspect.
word,
I
yes.
can't even write with my left hand at all. But Magic, I do everything backwards because that's how I started. So yeah, I've been doing Magic since I was super young. 4 or 5 is when I first got inspired. And I've been working and performing ever since. Every summer I do a camp tour for the last 5 years where I tour overnight camps and day camps around Ontario and Quebec. And it's awesome. I love it. I love teaching Magic. I love, I get an opportunity to perform. I get an opportunity to perform with the staff and work with them. And it's really fun. And I love giving kids the opportunity to learn, Magic that is relatively easy so they can go out there and start, getting creative in how they perform and how they speak. And it helps people come out of their shells. So
you teach people Magic that is relatively easy to learn the method, but you also teach a lot of stuff that has very heavy performance technique, I think, involved in it in terms of sure, the move isn't very hard, but selling the move becomes a lot more difficult. And one of the questions I actually want to ask you outside of the podcast, and I haven't done it yet, is have you come back to camps every year and seen kids really growing in their Magic field?
Yeah, well, there's kids that come back to me and they say look at all the stuff I can do, look at the stuff I can work on. There's, every time I go to these camps, there's people that are, inspired by Magic, and it makes for, in the simplest of ways, it makes for just more engaged audience members because people are saying hey, I've been into Magic, I've been into the Magic that you've been posting, I've been into, Penn and Teller Fool Us, I've been into Wizard Wars, I've been into, so they're just involved in Magic and pop culture, which is good for me. A couple of times there's campers who are very hooked on Magic, so they're particularly excited that I come back. But I intentionally, when I go back to these camps, 3 and 4 and 5 years later, after having gone years at a time, I need to bring different Magic, and obviously I need to perform different Magic. So my show is changing for these camps, and so are the tricks that I teach them. But it's awesome because these kids now have a repertoire of material that I've taught them, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
So I do that, and in the future I'm hoping to use Magic as a means to speak to high school kids about leadership, because I feel so strongly about how it can be a tool, or how it was for me, and how I can use that information to help others. And I've already done a couple of speaking gigs at leadership events. But that's sort of the plan for me for the future. But I arrived here because, me and Tyler, every time we jam, what started happening is we used to, bring decks of cards and we would show each other tricks and show each other new moves and we would talk about ideas, but it just evolved into us playing with a deck of cards and shuffling them and practicing moves while we discussed philosophies of Magic. So we would discuss theory, we would discuss philosophy, we would discuss, art, we would discuss all of these different things, and
last week we were at Chris Mayhew's house, and we all had a deck of cards in our hand, and we didn't do one trick that involved, we just used them to point at things. Imagine a deck of cards was right there, you know what I mean?
Yeah, we just use them as tools in our conversation. So that was how we sort of arrived here at Discourse in Magic. And we thought that there would be one specific thing that we would do, what we would try to avoid, and that is method. And I'll pass it over to Tyler to explain why exactly we thought we should avoid that.
There's a number of reasons why we thought we should avoid method. One of the biggest ones is that there's enough. There's enough discussion of method, there's enough people talking about the newest tricks and doing trick reviews and trying to tiptoe around the actual method, and I figured it would just be easier for us to totally eliminate it. Another reason is that Magic is so much more than that. Method is only a small percentage of actually how a trick works and how Magic is created, right? There's so much more that goes into the performance of it. There's a lot more psychology, a lot more framing, a lot more design. There's so many different amazing discussion topics that don't really get discussed.
That's the stuff that we want to discuss and promote.
Yeah, they don't really get discussed anywhere other than sort of back rooms at magic shops or conventions or something like that. It's sort of this very small community of people that are only really friends, and not everybody gets to have those friends. I know it took me a long time to sort of penetrate the magic circle in Toronto and become one of the crew. So I think it would be great to give people that opportunity to just listen to these conversations, and like you said, it's already changed, and now we want you to get involved, right? We want people sharing their ideas fluidly online and have directed conversation that we're sort of, growing the art and answering people's questions that are outside of method.
And especially because it now gives us an opportunity to mend and mesh more with other art forms. Like every art form is very present online, or many of them, and sometimes they're not discussing their techniques either, but that isn't really a limitation.
There's thousands of reviews on different camera bodies and lenses, but there's also thousands of videos on depth of field and things like that.
There's not enough depth of field talks about magic.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
I think the analogy I used in the intro is you could get every type of paint and every type of brush, and that won't make you a better painter. It'll be learning about all the different techniques that painters use that will make you a better painter, right?
That's so meta, because now this is the intro. So now this is the example that you used. So I think now is probably a good opportunity for us to talk about what the plan is for the future. So we both sort of have different views about this, but together, and that's gonna help how it grows. So for me at least, I know that I want this to be a community. That's why we made sure that it evolved into a website. That's why we made sure that we have a newsletter. And in the newsletter, we're going to have different activities for people to do so that they can, help better their magic with us together. And we can all do this sort of introspective thing. And I think that would be awesome to grow, both, selfishly, because I would love to have a firmer understanding of different areas of magic. I would love to better understand, like spectators' view. I would love to understand expectations. I would love to understand, theory. I would love to understand different views of the art, the storytelling, the character, the how to be online. So selfishly, I'm interested, but also because I would love for there to be a hub, a free online resource for people to find information about all of the different artistic aspects of magic. So I'm happy that our evolution will hopefully become that. And I'll pass over to Tyler to explain what he's excited for this too.
Yeah, I mean, you really hit the nail on the head with the idea of a community. I think that not only just in terms of answering the questions that I have, I want to have new questions posed to me. I want to get people thinking about ideas that I would never, ever thought about. Also, I think that it would just be great for me, personally, to create something like this. Just to have a sort of creative project, which is really why we do magic, right? Is to express something, and I feel like my magic kind of misses the point a lot of the times when I'm performing, and I can explain it now. I can just say it in my clear words and be like, hey, this is what I'm trying to achieve with my magic, and people can tell me why it's not working. People can tell me, oh, that's a crazy idea, here's how I would approach it, or something like that. Also, I think one of the biggest benefits to a project like this is that there's such a need for young magicians especially, and some old magicians too, but mainly people who are new to the art, to understand that it's more than just the trick. And it's not just by giving them the information, it's by letting them see that the people that they're buying the tricks from, the people that they're idolizing, have their posters of, feel this way too. You know what I mean? Like they're not happy with the people who are just buying and spending and spending and spending and spending and performing bad magic, right? I want to make magic good, and I want to make magic viewed as more of an art than anything else, and not just a game or carnival show type thing.
Yeah, and I think that we have the opportunity to be part of the movement of making magic, trying to
it's 2016.
bring back it's 2016, trying to make it more meaningful, and trying to do that through an artistic analysis and not through buying another trick or learning another new finger position or pinky count. That was me trying to pinky count. And
Also, I think that there's just questions that I haven't had the opportunity to ask myself that people who have already answered the questions have brought up. Like, we've recorded, you said, like 8 or 10 episodes, whatever it is. I've already been inspired multiple times just through the conversations.
Yeah, speaking with like Scott Hamill, speaking with Chris Mayhew, speaking with Steve Brundage, like it's been really, really, really cool, and a ton of it has been awesome, and we are already excited for the future. So,
we hope you are too.
Yeah, we hope you are too. So if you have tuned in this long, we have 3 more episodes available right now, and if you have tuned in anytime later than April 30th, and we will have more than that. And please check them out, take a look. They're very interesting. I mean, we think so. And check us out on all of the different resources online. Please, please, please come to our website, discourseInMagic.com. There's blogs. There's opportunity for guest blog posts if you guys are interested. We have an incredible, incredible newsletter with activities and with different stuff to help you better your magic alongside
contests
us
and prizes coming up.
Contests, prizes. We have a ton of information. We've got resources to help you point yourself in the right direction. You can check us out on Twitter at Magic Discourse. Like us on Facebook. Type in Google and do everything. And most importantly, check us out on iTunes or Stitcher or any of the other podcasting platforms. And if you like it, please leave a comment and a high rating, because it really, really, really helps us. And if you didn't like it, then don't worry about ratings and comments and stuff. That sort of thing's not important. And finally, if you have any questions, concerns, worries, thoughts, feelings, ideas, opinions, anything, you can always email us at discourse@discourseInMagic.com. I'll say that again, discourse@discourseInMagic.com. Thank you so much, and we will see you at episode 2 with Stephen Brundage, and you guys will really like it. Take care.
See ya.